Just know that divorce does not mean death. In a lot of ways, divorce is life. Think of it that way. And just don't let the shame get the best of you, because it'll cause you to live in denial and not handle the business of divorce.
Right.
Because you're stuck on the shame or sometimes even paralyzed. But going back to what you said, if money can fix it, you don't have problems.
Right.
Keep that in mind as well.
So I know you all want to know what the real cost of divorce is, right? So we hear all the stories about divorce, but what is the real cost? So excited that you are tuning in today to this episode of the Thank Me Later show with me, your host, Jini Thornton, where we help you master your money and transform your life. So nobody better to be here with me today than my BFF, Kimberly Jackson. Kimberly Allen Jackson.
Yes.
So happy you're here. And I'm grateful that you're here because obviously this is a pretty sensitive topic.
It is.
But because of our relationship, like I had a front row seat to your transition, to your divorce, and played an integral part in your transition. And so people don't understand what it really means.
Right.
Freedom is not free.
It sure is.
And wars take time and they cost money.
Yes.
So thank you for being here.
Of course.
My
pleasure.
And sharing your story today. So if you're new to the show, welcome. And if you have listened to us before, we really appreciate it. So we want you to like and share and subscribe, all of the things. This story may not relate to you, but you may know somebody who has been through hell already or kind of contemplating something, a transition in their life. And this show, this content could certainly be helpful for them. So Kim, I'd like to share a little bit about you before we jump into this. So obviously we are college roommates from North Carolina A&T, Aggie Pride.
Gotta say that.
Aggie Pride. Yes. So proud that you are now the Senior Vice President at the American Cancer Society. Two young adult children, amazing second hubby.
That's right.
Yeah. So what, 2.5 years now?
Yeah, 2.5 years.
2.5
plus
years.
2 more kids. So that's a total of 4.
Right.
Yeah.
Total of 4
yes.
kids. You are the atypical blended family for sure.
Yeah. For sure.
And so I just kind of wanted to set the stage for people about this chapter of your life. And obviously, again, knowing each other since, I think 1988.
1988, yeah.
So we had been through college. We had gone through the whole young adult time together. I'm married, kids. You come behind me several years later. And then you're like, wait a minute. Just don't know how this is kind of working for me.
Yeah, don't know. A little rough. Yeah.
I got a little rough out there.
Yeah, it did.
And then I just remember, I will never forget the day that you called me. Because I think, with most people, I think with divorce that it's never just like one event.
Exactly.
But I think there's finally the straw that breaks the camel's back. And that's literally the situation you had.
Yeah.
So I remember when you called me, you were very upset. And then I was like, okay, we have 2 choices right now.
That's right.
I said, you either stay and be happy with staying, or it's time for you to make your transition.
Right.
And you said, it's time for me to go.
It's time for me to go.
And so how did you know? Like, why did you know it was time?
So I'll be honest with you. I knew 10 years before I felt like this is not going to last. Because that's when my mom had been diagnosed with cancer, and she was in hospice, and there were certain behaviors that he was showing that I thought, wow, this is someone that is not going to take care of me, for in sickness and health. Right. It's in health and fantabulousness. But as soon as things look like they're slightly going left, he, tends to jump ship. So I thought, I just don't know. But having young kids, I think my son was 3 months old. When I was like, I don't think so.
Right.
But I was not in a financial position at all to go anywhere. So I told myself 10 years before the day I called you, all right, Kim, so during this time, you need to get your life back together, financially, career-wise, get the kids to a point that I felt like I would be comfortable, not even comfortable. It's not a matter of not trusting, but I could not imagine not being in the same house with my kids every night.
Right.
So I had to get to a point that I was comfortable with that.
Right.
So, yeah. So, fast forward, I actually, Jini, unbeknownst to you, I just decided I was going to change careers. Everything was good. Actually, the marriage was okay. And I remember having a conversation with my father like 2 days before. I'm like, Dad, I think we might be okay. And I promise you, I think God was like, no, I need to show you what you're working with. Like, you cannot tell me otherwise.
Right.
Because when I won't go into all the details about that, but when the straw broke the camel's back, there was something, this is before I even called you, that came over me that was like, it was like I was in a cage and the door was opening.
Wow.
And it was like, am I going to leave or not? Am I going to stay in the cage or not? And in my spirit, I felt like, ooh, I got to leave the cage. But then after I talked to Jini, you affirmed, okay, you going to step out that cage or you going to stay in?
Right.
Yeah.
And so obviously felt like you knew.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't realize that you had really decided 10 years before.
Yep. Yep.
And so now you have made the decision.
Yes.
You have made the decision. And so did you have a plan? Like had you talked to a divorce lawyer by then?
The week before. Because I was thinking about it. It's funny. I don't know if we talked about
No, I don't remember this.
Funny, right? So fresh. But somebody had gone, a parent at the school, gone through divorce. And I thought, maybe I need to talk to somebody, just learn what my rights are. Because I didn't know anything about the process, what I could do, what my rights were. Because to some extent, he had made me feel like I had none. So I had to find, seek the information on my own. So I sat with an attorney and they just kind of explained. So I'm like, okay, should I decide on the day? At least I know what I need to do. And that was the extent of it.
And so hindsight looking back, you don't really think that you had a long season of preparation, not emotional preparation, because it sounds like you were doing your work, getting emotionally ready. Yes. But as far as the business side.
Yeah, that was not in place at all. And I'll even say, so in my, in my first, because I am remarried, but my first marriage, he was, the way we talked about it was, he's the tomorrow, I'm the today. Bill financially. So he's preparing for the future. He's investing. He's doing all that while I keep the lights on. Make sense?
Yes.
So I'm keeping the lights on. Then it turns into I'm keeping the lights on in his business. Had a wonderful, wonderful retirement account. Worked at a company that had a great bonus structure, benefits, et cetera. I had 7 figures. Even back then. And which was, good to be that young.
Absolutely.
Wiped out. So I had nothing.
So you want to exit, like a lot of people want to, when they're looking around and they're like, how do I exit? Because it's going to cost me in order to exit. So how did you know that you should still move forward? Because I think a lot of people, male or female, is just like, this math is not mathing.
Yeah, math is not mathing. Also, I'm a minimalist, right? So I don't need a lot of stuff.
Right.
And we were in this 10,000 square foot home or whatever, but it didn't feel like home for me. So it wasn't about the stuff. I didn't need anything. So, one thing I did, I just thought about it. I think I looked around for cost of apartments, et cetera, like where would I live? And subconsciously, I was kind of looking forward to it, right? So that was the preparation, but I had not prepared for the actual cost of divorce. I had calculated the cost of leaving and starting over, but I think I also knew that if I thought about it too much, I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have even left.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I do think you had an advantage, though, Kim, of being a minimalist because, which is common. I think the statistic is over 60% of women experience a significant drop in their standard of living after divorce. And for some women, that would be devastating. Right. For you, you can pivot so quickly. Yeah. You've lived around the world. You have lived in Madagascar. You've lived in Peru. You've lived in Honduras. you know what it is to, like keep things real tight.
Right.
Yeah. And be a minimalist, but thrive in that and not feel like you're being punished in that. I think that's one thing that I really admired in you.
Thank you.
It wasn't like you were suffering through it. You were like, hey, this is cool. This is mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because for me, happiness is not about stuff. It's about experience, about people and friends. So I don't need stuff. I don't want stuff. And that's why this big, humongous place was icy and cold. I'm like, I will happily move into an apartment and have my baby sharing a room.
Right.
Right? Because there's peace. So that's what I was starving for, was peace.
Right. And it's funny too, because when you think about your award-winning 10,000 square foot loft, where people would have dreamed to live there. And you were like,
can't stand it.
I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out. So let's talk about the cost.
Yeah.
So you were ready. You understood what the move was going to be. You knew what it was going to cost to live on your own. You had done the math. You knew the investment that you had made to keep your family afloat because you were making an investment in your whole family.
Right.
Let's talk about the cost of the actual divorce.
Ooh, child.
Okay. So when you started down the process, obviously you had to hire an attorney. And, the one thing that I remember talking to you about was, wars take time and they cost money. And I have never had a client that's been through a divorce, but I have been through so many lawsuits and they all take forever and they all cost $1 bajillion.
Right.
So I'm like, you got to settle in.
Right.
Because this can also be strategy for people that it takes a really long time because people want it to be quick. I'm like, it normally don't happen this way. Settle in and get ready for that. So did it take longer and it costed more than even kind of what you thought it was going to be?
I never would have thought the cost was going to be so high. Never.
So about how much do you think you spent?
Like total?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. You try not to think about it, but I'm going to think about it for a moment. I don't know, Jini. I would have to say it has to be like at least $60,000 or more. I think so when it all said. Let me think about this.
Okay.
I think so. I'm going to say a solid 50.
About solid 50.
Yeah.
Okay. And when I hear you say that, although I'm shocked because on average, I think it's about $10,000 to $20,000.
Yeah.
But when you're dealing with somebody who's not average,
Yes.
it's certainly going to cost more than that.
It's going to cost more.
And so help me understand for someone who now is living on their own, maintaining a household. At that time you had kids in private school.
Yeah.
And you are footing the bills. How did you afford that? Like, what magic did you have to make in order? It's not like you had to stroke a $60,000 check, but you're saying over time, you had to make these payments.
Yeah.
How did you make the math work?
Well, I'll tell you, family and friends, of course, that were helping because the retainers, all of those things, I did not have it available. So fortunately, friends and family did have it. So, and that was uncomfortable for me because I was before used to being the one to give. So to receive that right there, was so hard to the point I would say no,
right? But
it would just show up and I would just take it because I wasn't going to ask. So, so that's one way. I'm thinking about, you know what? I was very, as soon as I decided, I literally was calling everybody. It's time. I'm leaving. I'm out. And so I accepted help wherever it was coming from, right? Furniture. Like when I left, I took 4 knives, 4 spoons, 4 plates. I took a couch, nothing. I'm just going to take what I need. First of all, I don't want that energy coming with me.
Right.
But no, that's all I need. So again, back to that minimalist, I already knew that honestly, it was going to be cheaper for me to live. But with the kids in private school, for which, again, it was uneven. I ended up paying both. So I'm responsible for both. I shouldn't be. But I let the school know. I was very honest and transparent with everyone. So I never was embarrassed to share about my situation.
Right.
And I think as a result, help was happening and I didn't even know it.
Right.
Because I put it out there.
Were you surprised by the outpouring of support, even from the school? I can understand why friends and family leaned in, but because you were willing to be transparent, now these strangers were like, girl, Here, I'm happy to help you.
Yeah.
Were you surprised?
I don't think I was surprised, but not because I would do that for someone else and the people around me. But it was the beauty and the ugly. Like, there was so much beauty that came out of it. And more importantly, people that saw and were honestly waiting and happy as all get out.
We're
that
like,
I was
girl, finally.
like, as soon as, like, did y'all have a savings account just for me? Anticipating this day? That's how it felt.
And I want to go back to the legal process, because this is one thing that you and I talked a lot about with dealing with lawyers, is the discovery process.
Oof, yes.
And can you explain to people what that means in the context of a divorce? And this is part of the reason why it could get so expensive.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Yeah, it can get expensive, and I can see how if somebody starts the process, they'll stop, because you have to bare your soul. People talk about the difficulty of whether it's applying to school or trying to get a mortgage, closing. It has nothing on a divorce, because you have to lay everything out. But also because of what I do, finance, et cetera, I love a good spreadsheet. So it was easy for me to capture all the important information to have ready for the attorney.
So be literal. So when you say you have to lay it all out, you're like showing your income, your assets,
income,
the kids'
how much
expenses.
you spend, you name it. If it costs, you got to lay it out, because there's a thing called the DERFA. I can't remember what DERFA stands for. But it's really outlining all of your expenses so they can calculate how much, if alimony ends up being involved or child support, it helps with the calculation. I even had to track the amount of time with each kid. So it wasn't just money, but it's, okay, the kids are with me this amount of time. I take them to this. I buy their snacks for this. I fill my tank up. Every single thing that you spend your money on, you have to write down, and it was important, because in my mind, I'm like, oh, I'm just putting gas in my tank. They're like, no. But you're using 75% of it to get the kids back and forth from their activities. So that counts. So I will say in preparing, I realized how much I was entitled to. Does that make sense?
Because you didn't have,
oh my gosh, I had no idea.
Right.
Had no idea.
Right. It'd be easy to take that stuff for granted because you're just doing it anyway.
You're just doing it. I'm doing it.
Versus that there being a value to that, but then also having to track all of it.
Track it all, everything, tracking conversations, tracking everything, not saying yes to things, not falling for, I call the okey doke.
Right.
Like, be careful what you say, but really tracking every single thing. And because it is a journey, because there's a temporary order, then there's when they come back. I mean, we could go down, it lasts nearly 18 years of going back and forth to court in some capacity. So not 18, but yeah.
So how long did it take you to get, like when you started, you engaged the lawyer until like your divorce was final? About how long was that?
So September 12, October 13.
Okay.
Yeah, so a little bit over a year before the stamp was you officially divorced.
And so that was your temporary, that was your final.
That was a final. So temporary took like 3-4 months. Okay. And then it took the rest of the time to get to final.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Wow. And now when you think about the burden, getting on your feet, new career, raising your kids, all of the things.
Getting laid off.
In
the midst of it.
In the midst of all of this. How long did it take you to get your footing after?
I don't even know how to answer that, because I felt like I gained my emotional footing the day I put that key in the apartment door.
Right.
But.
Right.
Ooh.
Literally. Mm-hmm. So your financial, so when you think about the financial impact, when do you think you were able to kind of like woosah or begin to dig out?
I'd say a good 4 years, good 4 to 5 years, right. I think.
Right. And I appreciate you sharing that because, as I talk to people who go through the process, because once the documents are finalized, people want everything to be instantly like done and over. Right. And I'm like, it takes time to rebuild.
It does.
It takes time to dig out of debt, begin to be able to save for retirement again, like whatever all of the things are, get your kids, life is still lifing, get your kids ready for college or, whatever all those things are that are happening in your life. And do you think you gave yourself grace during that time? Or do you think you were hard on yourself? Like,
I gave myself grace, but let me tell you, the fact that I had nothing and I was set up for success and I allowed myself to get in that position, I carried the shame probably up until, 2-3 years ago.
So talk about that. What do you mean?
It's like, how did I get here? Like I, did great in school, got a great job. I mean, like a first job, I'm doing really well. And even got married. We're set up. So I thought to just continue to excel and to take a step all the way back, like literally watch your money just go down to zero. And then be in a position where I have 2 kids, so I can't roll out there. I can't just, because I'll hustle and grind. I'll work. But I couldn't do that. I have little kids and little people, and I need to get them to where they need to be. So that was tough.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so what advice do you have for somebody, male or female, who has gone to zero, and as a result of the relationship or divorce, like what would you say to them?
So I would say what you said one good time, and I promise you, it just freed me up. Mm-hmm. And it was, if money can fix it, you don't have problems.
You don't have a problem. Yeah.
And because I'm not a money person, I mean, I like nice things, but I don't like a whole lot of stuff anyway. It's just too much for me. But I'm like, yeah. Mm-hmm. So that was it. If money can fix it, you don't have problems. Mm-hmm. And I would say, be honest with your friends. Remember, that's what happens when you're going through stuff and divorce. Like, oh my God, everything's awesome and great. Yeah, not so much. It's okay. Right. It's important to have great friends and family around and being honest with those around you.
Right. Having support.
Oh my goodness.
Being honest, mm-hmm. About that. Thank you for sharing that, because I even forgot that I told you that. I actually got that from somebody else. I have a friend, Bernard Parks, and he would always say, if you have a problem that money can fix, then you don't have a problem. And that's proper context, because if you have a major health issue or something else, you cannot write a check big enough to make that go away. Yep. He was like, you can make more money. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, thank you for that perspective. Yes. That's super, super helpful. So I wanted to transition real quick to the hotline. We have a question that someone submitted in advance, knowing that we're going to talk about this amazing topic. Ooh. Okay. You're ready. You can handle anything. You can handle anything. So this is Christina, who's part of our Thank Me Later community. And she says that she's currently going through a divorce, and she's worried about how it will impact her retirement savings and future financial security. What steps should she take to protect herself financially?
Okay. Well, what I would say is, number one, give yourself grace. I can't wait for what's on the other side for you, first and foremost. The other thing is, do not let shame get in the way, meaning talk to your employer or whomever's holding whatever assets and ask them. Just take it all in and learn what you have at your fingertips and your disposal to then make a decision, because the decisions that you made in retirement or when you were planning for retirement and married looks different now. So just start from scratch and learn and enjoy it. But if you have retirement, you have hope.
Right. For sure.
Yeah.
Having assets. A couple of weeks ago, we had an event at our new space, and it was a legacy event in partnership with the College Park East Point chapter of Delta Sigma Theta. So at the end of it, Kim, this woman comes over to me, and she literally grabs my arm, and she's like, hey, I have a question. She said, so I'm married, everything is good, but her husband has been the primary wage earner. And she's like, I really don't have a sense of everything and how close he is with his family. And she kind of felt like an outsider in her family, to the point she said her children, who are now young adults, have been like, hey, girl,
wow.
you know what's up. And I think them saying that was kind of like a ding, 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 ding moment. And she said, if you were me, what would I do? What would you do? And I said, it says nothing to do with being divorced or married, but I would certainly speak with an attorney because what are my rights?
Yes.
And I think we make up the stories in our head. Please don't, unless your friend is a lawyer who does this, don't talk to your friends about this. Like, you need to go to the source. It's worth a consultation.
Yes.
Just to
That's
find,
what I did.
okay, if something happens, how does this all play out? Because she was trying to figure out, can he have a trust separate from me and I don't know anything about it? Yeah. You know what? And you could tell she was spinning. She was beginning to spin. So having that information, I think, is really important because too many people are getting caught off guard, whether it be in death, whether it be in divorce, because you don't always know what the other person has going on.
Yeah.
And y'all supposed to, live in the same household.
Yeah. So you know what? And I think that let's talk about my, as I say, I've been married twice, but I've only had one husband. That's the difference. Deep. But it's the truth, right? So this was kind of new for me.
Right.
And so what I would say to her, but then, in hindsight, and it's something that we did, we put everything on the table together before we even got married. Like, here's my debt, here's my assets, all of it. And where before I was just kind of shy about that, right? Where I didn't even have to ask, let's be honest, with my second marriage.
Right.
However, that's important. You got to lay it all out and know what you're dealing with. The other thing that I would say, and you're right, because when I was thinking about getting divorced and I spent the money, I invested in those 2 hours. And by the way, had I retained her, that would go towards it. So it was either, but it was a great investment because I understood my rights. To some extent, I feel like that should be done before you're getting ready to get married anyway.
Right.
And not in a negative way. And that's
For
what we
sure.
did. Like, okay, what am I working with? Like, what debt do we need to get rid of first? Making sure my name was on stuff.
Right.
And because it wasn't, I found out in the first one, I'm like, whoa, what? That's in so-and-so and so-and-so's name under the sun.
Right.
Like, what in all of the world? So there was full transparency.
Right.
And we had conversation, not just amongst ourselves, but with the financial advisor, with an attorney, you name it. We did all of that up front.
Right. And I appreciate that, Kim, because it's just business.
It is.
It has nothing to do with love.
Yeah.
Has nothing to do with relationship. It's just like, okay, we are two people in a partnership. We're going to call this business. Well, how do things need to be set up? And what does that look like? So we have the full transparency because who wants to be caught off guard regardless? Because people think you're setting yourself up for some ugly ending. No, people pass away.
Yeah.
Things happen. And particularly now, you being in a blended family, that's a whole different layer of complexity there.
It's a different layer. But the other thing that I'll say kind of back to that is doing that, we all want to leave a legacy, right?
Sure.
No matter what, we want to leave a legacy. And that requires preparation. Even, let's say, if you're not married, eventually we're all going to go. So what do you want to happen, right? And when you get married, if you're fortunate enough to have kids, you're responsible for these little human beings. So it is not about you. It is not about being selfish.
Right.
Honestly, not doing so is being selfish.
Right. Speaking of kids, how did you navigate the transition with your children? And I'm thinking about it from a couple different perspectives because there had to be a lifestyle change to some degree. Did you work hard to keep things as normal as possible with them?
Yes.
Or were you like, hey, y'all, things a little different out here in these streets right now? What was your approach with your kids?
I would say keep it as normal as possible. But because I'm not a stuffed person in material, there wasn't anything that really drastically changed. Their activities, the cost of their activities. Also, I made sure that they had clothes at both houses. Did I have to do that? No, right? And that's the thing. There are things that what the divorce decree says, and then there's actually what happens and balancing, making it uncomfortable for your kids. So yes, I try to keep things as normal as possible for them so they had a sense of routine.
And Do you think now, because obviously how long have you been divorced now?
So 12 years.
Oh, wow.
Woo.
Hindsight, kind of looking back as far as your kids, do you think you should have handled anything differently with the kids? Or any tips, for folks who are like, ooh, who are kind of tiptoeing around?
No, because I remember the thing that was like, okay, I'm out, happened on a Friday. Monday, signed a lease on an apartment.
Literally.
Situation
happened Friday.
Yeah.
The straw that broke the camel's back happened Friday.
Yes.
Monday you signed a lease.
Yes.
Right.
Then
right.
Yes. Did that, signed a lease, and then met with the attorney, told the kids on Thursday, planned that out. I had to step away from an event. I was judging a pageant to go tell the kids and go back. Made sure it was in a place that they would never have to go to again. Met with the school counselor on the best way to articulate it. Told them on a Thursday. Saturday, the moving truck was there, right?
Right.
And then, we were out on Saturday, following Saturday. Yeah. So
that's one thing I remember about when we talked about this. You're laughing. I'm like, honey, we're going to have to move quickly.
Yes, because this one right here.
I said, now we got to get on offense very quickly because this is a situation right here, and offense is going to give us a competitive advantage. And I think it certainly did because he did not think you were capable of moving that fast. And so I'm like, let's go. And we're going to have to press the gas very, very quickly because normally things move very slow. And I'm like, go.
You got to go. But here's the thing too, right? Like I normally move fast, but being in a bad situation, you lose yourself. So I was moving slow. I remember when you told me, you were like, so what's the plan? I'm like, so I'm just going to move out. But when are you going to start the process? Well, I was hemming and hawing, but that hemming and hawing came from, I don't have any money to do this thing.
Gotcha.
But you're like, we got to move fast. But also at that point, listen, I may be good at a lot of things, but when I'm in the thick of it, you got to just follow other people's lead. If they say jump, you got to jump. Your support system. So that's what I had was a support system around me saying, we need to move fast. And I'm like, okay, let's go.
Right.
Yeah. So
you were very easy to direct.
Oh, thank
Let me
you.
just say that you were easy. Everyone who's under stress or duress, I'm very bossy. Yeah, so. But I also think though, we were focused on what the end goal was, and you had not been there before. So it's like give me the game, and you were executing your butt off. Yeah. And it made all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
So it certainly was still expensive, but it helped with all the drama.
It sure did.
So one thing I did want to talk about before we wrap up is child support, Jesus. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. We can go there.
So some people get it and it's a wonderful thing. Other people are like, this is some BS. That's where you see the whole jockeying about who gets the kid how much, because that could impact how much you pay, all of the things. So through that lens, any feedback or tips you want to share with people? Because I know that was very challenging for you.
Which part of it? You're talking about the negotiating of it?
Yeah, just the whole, and the ongoing, having to, and also making sure that you could support yourself, whether it came in or not on time.
Right. Oh my goodness. Yes. So again, going back to the paperwork, the calculations, which is so important, and why you want to count everything. If it involves children or something outside of, but then again, with alimony, it could be different. Just write it all down. Don't just think it's not a big deal, because that goes into the calculation. And so once the attorney, the court system, because it's a formula, it's a spreadsheet, and he thought that he wasn't going to have to pay anything. And then when he realized that he was going to have to pay something, then all of a sudden he's trying to get full custody. So also what that looks like is also trying to negatively impact my character.
Right.
So it got quite dramatic.
Right, for sure.
But, and the key was, I'm not going there.
Right.
I would always think in terms of, what would the judge think of what I said? How would that be received? And that's what kept me calm throughout. But fast forward, the amount was the amount. He had to pay it. Let's say it's due on the 1st and it's late on the 6th. He's going to pay it on the 5th at 11:59 p.m. every single time, just because.
Right.
Or write little nasty messages on a check. Like, just try to mess with me, right?
Right.
And then at some point later on claimed that he lost his job and could only pay a significantly lower amount. Guess what? I got to fight that too. So I got to go back and go to court. That's when the discovery process
happens again.
Yeah. So it was an ongoing battle. Just because it's awarded doesn't mean it's necessarily going to come.
Right.
So financially, I just did everything I could to not plan for it.
Right.
I tried not to count on it.
To depend
Oh,
on
absolutely.
it. Right.
Yeah.
Because if it came, that was wonderful.
Yeah.
But you had to live within a certain
Absolutely.
budget and then also not be like, oh, I'm waiting for this to come in before I can do X, Y, and Z.
yeah.
And thank you for sharing that, because I hear that a lot with people. I'm not going to just say women. I know a lot of men who receive child support now who it doesn't come when it's supposed to.
Yeah, because it costs to fight that.
Absolutely.
And whether it costs time for you to go and do it yourself, for which you're not an expert, or it costs if you're going to have to reach out to your attorney. And then you also, just because the 6th you didn't get it, you can't, you still have to allow time for it, right?
Absolutely.
So it's a journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a journey.
So now as this new woman, you're a completely different person.
Yeah.
You are so crazy. So I'm not even going to say you have a new chapter. Like, you're in a whole new book, new library, new everything. Just kind of talk about what you had to do to get ready for that point. Because I think a lot of people, the war of divorce leaves them so wounded that they don't prepare themselves to step into what could be the best
chapter.
Absolutely.
And you know what? But what I will say is I had an off chapter. That divorce time was not me, because I am the same person I was when we were in college, et cetera, then met him, and then I got off course. So I'm back on course. And I mean that because even when I got divorced, I also knew no matter how I felt about him, the kids were going to be with their dad as much as possible.
Absolutely.
So in my mind, I said, I'm not going to live more than 6 miles away from their father, which also means what? I'm putting a cap on my career at this time. But I accepted that. And I said to myself, it's going to be temporary, but I need to do this. I made the grown-up decision to have kids. So therefore, this is my allotted amount of time that I'm going to just 6 mile radius. But fortunately, you could work remote. So that ended up working out for me. I started by having an emancipation celebration. And I went all out. I didn't have money, but I got cute shoes. I got a cute dress. I got my makeup done. My friend came over and did my makeup. Remember we getting dressed?
Yes.
And we had a whole emancipation celebration, because it's important that there is a line of demarcation.
Right.
The end, in the past, let's go.
Right.
So that was a big moment. Like, I'm not bringing this with me.
Right.
Even as much as when I moved, I did not allow my ex to cross the threshold. No, like, this is my space. So that was really important. And then from there, career-wise, I made a decision. Okay, it's time to put myself out there, right? Just getting more involved, looking at job opportunities, et cetera. So then it just started happening. I just made myself available and open to it. Honestly, in the universe, literally and figuratively as well.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Well, congratulations
Thank
to
you
in your new chapter book and library.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I just suggest people who are married, thrilled, happy, not, things are a hot mess. I just strongly suggest that you are knowledgeable about the business of your relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What is where? Whose name is on what? Mm-hmm. How are things going to happen if someone passes away? If someone, y'all this just really ain't going to work for us anymore. We should know what that is.
And it's not a one and done.
No.
You go back, revisit, et cetera. Like right now, we're in the season of looking at subscriptions, right? What do we need? What don't we need, et cetera. Individually, but then also, in a marriage. So, yeah.
And so anybody who needs any resources, we have an incredible interview with the family law attorney, Tanya Mitchell Graham, who we love, love, love. It's called Untying the Knot. And that's within our Thank Me Later community. So you can certainly get access to our community and check out that content. Tanya is super honest and we have good content about that, and also child support as well. So anything that you'd like to share about you, Kim, or any resources you want to share with folks as we wrap up?
Not resources, just know that divorce does not mean death. In a lot of ways, divorce is life. And just think of it that way. And just don't let the shame get the best of you, because it'll cause you to live in denial and not handle the business of divorce.
Right.
Because you're stuck on the shame, or sometimes even paralyzed. But going back to what you said, if money can fix it, you don't have problems.
Right.
Keep that in mind as well.
I love that. So last question for you. So, at Thank Me Later, we're all about leaving a legacy. Mm-hmm. So what does leaving a legacy mean to you?
Ooh, wow.
Ooh.
How much time do I have?
Not much.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, because, at this age,
it's different.
Everything is about leaving a legacy now. So leaving a legacy means making sure that my children, my grandchildren, my nieces and nephews do not have to make the mistakes and not have the resources that they need to get out of situation, have options. So leaving a legacy means ensuring that my kids and my kids' kids have options to be able to move and maneuver through life. Mm-hmm. Because once again, if you have money, not that it's the answer to everything, but it sure does allow you to be able to move the way you want to.
Sure does. Options.
Just trying to take the guesswork out of it. And so, as you know, for African Americans, for us leaving a legacy, like a woo.
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah.
Right. So,
legit.
Yeah, legit. That's what it is. And and teaching our kids to do the same thing now too. Like they understand it and they're thinking about it.
So if you want to check out my friend, she's on LinkedIn. Kimberly Jackson. You can check her out. And thank you for tuning into the Thank Me Later show with me, your host, Jini Thornton. You can check us out, learn more about us at the thankmelatorshow.com. You can follow me, TML Money at Jini Thornton, all of the things. But submit your questions. Let us know what you want us to talk about. Thank you, Kimberly. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. You too. Who would have thunk?
I know.
From Morrow Hall at North Carolina A&T State University to here.
So I know we're rapping, but I do just want to tell this story real quickly, because you refer to my husband as your hubby.
He's hubby, yes.
He's hubby, okay. Mm-hmm. And so people are always confused when we have this exchange about David. And people are like, what is happening here? Mm-hmm. So when my kids were, I don't even know if they were Trevor may have been in high school. And I just kept thinking, first of all, I'm a control freak. I needed a plan. Shut up. I needed a plan. I kept thinking, oh my God, if anything ever happens to me, it'll be perfect if David marries Kim.
Oh Lord, here we go.
Oh my God, this is just perfect. And where I also got the idea from Andrew Young, Ambassador Young. When his wife died, he married his wife's best friend. Now, I don't know if she blessed it. I'm not sure if she blessed it.
Let's change the
subject. I was like, this is a dope idea. I'm like, this is perfect. I said, she will love my kids. Wasn't that much worried about David. He'll be fine. But I'm like, she'll love my kids. There'll be no adjustment with my family. Like, she can just get in and we can just kind of keep things going. And so we're literally sitting at the kitchen table talking about it. And Trevor looks at me and he's like, Mom, do you have to control everything? I'm like, pretty much. I'm like, this is a perfect idea. Y'all know Kim and you love Kim. There's no adjustment. Then when you got married, I was like, Jesus Christ, she just killed my whole plan.
Yeah, I did.
She killed my whole plan.
I did. Yes.
So when you affectionately refer to him as hubby, it's okay with me.
It's okay with you. And it's okay with my hubs.
It's with your hubs too.
Yes.
It's perfect.
Yes.
So listen, you got to have a plan. That's all I'm saying.
I
Thank you, everybody. That's my plan.